Hello, my name is Carrie Beneš, and I'm professor of medieval and Renaissance history at New College of Florida. I'm a cultural historian specializing in late medieval Italy.
My name is Caterina Agostini, and I'm the Digital Humanities Project Manager at the Center for Digital Humanities at Princeton University. I study early modern science in Italy and digital and cultural heritage.
This presentation will discuss the geospatial aspects of the La Sfera project, which began as a way for medievalists to collect online during the 2020 lockdown and has now grown to include almost 100 participants in various capacities, from full professors to undergraduate students. La Sfera, the globe, is a treatise by Gregorio Dati, a prominent merchant and holder of public office in 15th century Florence. Written in the form of a poem, La Sfera is an introduction to cosmology, geography, and navigation written in the Italian vernacular to instruct the merchants' sons of that era, when Florence was an emerging powerhouse in international trade. La Sfera summarizes a late medieval understanding of cosmology and geography. Beginning with a broad description of the cosmos in Book 1, the poem narrows down to Earth's geography, climate, and other natural features in Book 2, the elements, winds, and other natural phenomena in Book 3, and finally the cartography of the Mediterranean in Book 4 as a liminal space connecting the three continents of the world.
As we mentioned, the project began during the spring 2020 lockdown, when Laura Moriali and Evan Alberton launched an online challenge to transcribe 3 different previously digitized copies of Dati's treatise. A cohort of medievalists, Renaissance, and early modern scholars eventually came together from several countries to transcribe a full 8 copies of La Sfera. While many medieval texts survive in only 1 or 2 handwritten copies, and illustrated copies are often rare, the popularity of Dati's La Sfera with 15th century audiences is revealed by its survival in over 150 copies, many of them elaborately illustrated, as well as more than 15 incunable editions, early printed books dated 1472 to 1500s.
The La Sfera manuscripts therefore provide a rich corpus for geospatial analysis, with texts and illustrations/maps side by side. Copies feature several different scripts and decorative styles, from pen sketches to elaborate illuminated borders and perspectival maps. This very diversity attests to the wide variety of contemporary audiences who valued Dati's poem enough to make or commission a copy. Many questions emerged during the transcription process, however. Who did Dati imagine was his audience? Where are the places he discusses in the text? How does the text relate to the illustrations, both in terms of what is represented in the text and what is visualized or mapped in the illustrations? How do the illustrative programs in the various manuscripts relate to one another?
Geospatial content and interconnected topics on navigation, the homeland of Florence, and other cities and countries make La Sfera an ideal candidate for the creation of a digital resource. We therefore imagine the La Sfera project as an agile interface linking toponym indices, maps, Dati's poems, our translation, and manuscript images. The La Sfera project will create an open access, multifunction, multimedia interface that can be used both for reference purposes and for teaching, presenting Dati's integrated world of cosmology, geography, and cartography, in which users, starting with any of these categories, could access and explore all of the others.
At present, the La Sfera data consists of 4 different but related groups of information. 1, 8 different versions of the text, that is, textual attestations from 8 different individual versions of the poem, many of which are not themselves internally consistent. 2, an English translation of the text that combines best readings from at least 2 of those manuscripts, plus a 19th century printed edition. 3, the marginal maps and imagery from the relevant pages of those 8 manuscripts. And 4, toponymic data from all 8 of the manuscripts, which has been geolocated and mapped through the associated Mapping La Sfera effort. Pinpointing vague and imaginary places in Dati's text and illustrations poses challenges. On the one hand, the raw data, that is, the information in the manuscripts, includes those facts, and excluding that information limits access to knowledge that was perceived as real, current, and informative at the time. On the other hand, Most transitions to structured data lose that initial information or make it difficult to record since it isn't real in a modern sense. Both the richness of the La Sfera manuscripts and the singular nature of medieval manuscript production present unusually complex problems of digital documentation of the text, the visual apparatus, and the interconnectedness of both representation and cartography. Also, from a design perspective, trying to balance text, image, and mapping, each with multiple possible modes of viewing on a single screen, will easily become visually cluttered. I've already integrated the transcription and translation into one of my undergraduate courses, but a digital interface that offers data granular enough for serious scholars will be intimidating, if not incomprehensible, to undergraduates or the public at large. We are also very aware of broader concerns surrounding sustainability in digital humanities. Having put the effort of over 100 collaborators into the La Sfera project, we want to ensure that the way we present their work is accessible to students and scholars for long-term access, preservation, and archiving.
Our design concepts derive from principles that Dati himself named as guides for sailors at sea, as well as readers exploring navigation: the chart, the guide, that is the compass, and the sails. Dati's treatise states that he knows, and I'm quoting, where the winds and pours and all the shores are marked, end quote. And each illustrated La Sfera manuscript presents Dati's text accompanied by maps. Each version of the text, however, offers idiosyncratic textual readings, so that place name spellings vary even within the same manuscript, thus presenting variants across manuscripts from the same or different time periods. Texts and illustrations were furthermore probably made by different scribes and artists. Our first specifically geospatial questions emerged when we realized that La Sfera discussed geography and navigation through both textual and visual information. Some of the visual information is cartographic and some isn't. While the main geographic areas and the coastlines are explained in the text, readers can also see cities, towns, and ports represented in illustrations. For example, the Holy Land is marked visually by the main site of Christian devotion, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Places are characterized by their names corresponding to the text, but they are also visualized in their specific locations. Additionally, the illustrations situate information related to each place name within a wider frame of reference, given that each geographic entity, be it harbors, trading posts, and caravans of camels, cities, towns, and ancient or mythical places, is placed in proximity to others, and at the same time, far removed from other places represented on the manuscript page. Thus, the overall geographical information of the area only emerges in the illustrations, an aspect that readers could capture in the text only with a close reading of the whole passage, accompanied by connections to what came earlier or later in the text, or in the form of scribbled annotations.
Dati's review of Mediterranean geography in Book 4 starts with North Africa, mentioning cities, trading posts, and natural features along the coastline to provide what has been described as a verbal portolan. Portolans, the earliest of which date from the 14th century, so within a century of Dati's treatise, are large navigational charts traditionally made out of the hide of a single animal that document harbors, coastal towns, natural features, underwater hazards, sailing directions, and prevailing winds around the Mediterranean. So to start our digital mapping project, we first transcribed the text of selected La Sfera manuscripts. Next, we annotated the text, collected information in a spreadsheet, and worked to clean the data. For each occurrence of a place name or toponym in the text, we noted its location in the manuscript, recorded its relative location in the poem or on a marginal map, and geolocated the place to which it referred. We also archived a provisional version of the geospatial data for each manuscript. For example, the Yale manuscript plain text annotation we completed via Recogito, as well as a version of the structured data that we'll archive and share online. Our toponym spreadsheet has been organized so that participants can easily compare toponymic variants between various manuscripts, or even within the same manuscript, including the proper names of cities, regions, rivers, lakes, mountains, and so forth. We correlated several kinds of online resources to identify toponyms: maps, nautical charts, geographical dictionaries, and travel accounts from a variety of historical periods, as well as a few fundamental essays on the toponymy of early portlands.
Analyzing geospatial data was our next step, and we explored geospatial software and applications for the humanities, including Recogito by Pelagius Commons, Palladio by the Stanford Humanities and Design Lab, and ArcGIS Online. These tools helped us assess directions for user interface design and user experience interaction. For example, Recogito affords easy linking to Pleiades historical gazetteer data, but does not allow the contribution of new data to its data sets, which pose problems for the few La Sfera toponyms not found in Recogito's gazetteers. While Pelagius does have a project focused on portland chart data that may be helpful, going forward, we hope to link La Sfera's toponyms to the World Historical Gazetteer. Its span of historical data is wider than Pleiades, which focuses on the ancient world, and its developers encourage contributions of data from new projects. Georeferencing is key here because it allows us to point multiple instances of the same toponym all to the same link, as well as to group orthographical variants that otherwise might be hard to recognize as referring to the same place. On the other hand, as a collaborative team, we are aware that georeferencing information from text is not an unbiased operation.
Furthermore, toponymy is a very slippery subject, and mistakes or false assumptions are easy. As scholars of La Sfera interested in geospatial exploration, we encountered numerous toponyms that translators would define as false friends. This was the case with Portogallo, not Portugal, but a common name for the Portuguese city of Porto, as well as with Africa, the medieval name for Mahdia, a city on the Tunisian coast. Other toponyms are vague. Rosetta may refer to the city now known as Rashid, Egypt, or to a branch of the Nile in the Delta. Babylonia, to the city of Babylon, the region of Babylonia, or even to the city of Cairo, which was often referred to by Europeans in this period as Cairo de Babylonia. Another problem is identifying standard modern toponyms. Florence, Seville, Beirut, and Benghazi all have English equivalents, but both the medieval Italian Laiazzo and the modern Yurmortalik in Turkey, which is a key medieval gateway to the Silk Road, are likely to be unfamiliar to modern audiences. In some cases, the version most often used in English scholarship has a problematic history we may not want to promote, such as modern Béjaïa, Algeria, which medieval Italian sources know as Bugia, but which frequently appears in English language scholarship, thanks to 19th century sources, as the colonial French bougie.
With few exceptions, each La Sfera illustration covers the marginal area of a single page, rarely spanning 2 pages. The International Image Interoperability Framework, IIIF, has been crucial here, as IIIF supports high-quality images while also enabling a variety of uses and applications, including deep zoom, comparison, annotation, and transcription of digital images. For example, the portolan attributed to Angelino Dulcert and the 1620 Salvatore Oliva portolan held in the Harvard Map collection are ideal candidates for geospatial layering in the digital project. The latter of these is already georeferenced and IIIF compliant in the Harvard Map collection. The elaborate map of the Mediterranean by Abraham Cresques, made circa 1375, is another source that could contribute to a rich presentation of geospatial information.
Ultimately, providing an agile and searchable multimedia platform that preserves as much of Datti's original thinking as possible is our main goal. The La Sfera project will therefore help today's students understand how Europeans understood the world in the 15th century, and it will also serve as a public resource to scholars of this period attempting to understand the terms and methods of 15th century geography. In conclusion, we'd like to thank Laura Moreale and Ben Albritton, who originally came up with the idea for the La Sfera challenge, as well as the rest of the La Sfera team and those who have offered technical advice and assistance. Here is our contact information. Thank you very much for your attention, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.